Welcome back, everyone. Thank you guys so much for your patience. This is the final part of scripting your first mini game. We're basically putting the finishing touches, making sure the game is replayable. We're going to be doing these things here today. So we're going to add a reset game component. We're also going to write a script where only one player can hold the ball. So it can't be like two players throwing the balls together, working together. Just only one player at a time can hold the ball and throw the balls through the rings. We're going to do a ball return script. As well as put some anti-cheating mechanics where people can't just go all the way up to the ring and just put the ball in and out of the ring. And then also we're going to make it so the rings can move. So we're going to be doing all of this to go ahead and finish off your first mini game in Meta Horizon. Okay, and so also this is what the final version will look like right here. So you have the rings moving. You have also, if we go into edit mode real quick, we have here a trigger for the people can't jump in. We have the rings moving. We have these walls that we made as well. So just to kind of give you a look of what we're going to get at. All right. Okay, so last time we left off without these kind of walls and grass. I don't think none of that was there. Also, these were not here. We'll get to that in a second. This was a sound for when you win the game or the game is over. We will delete that for now as well. And I think this is all we had when we finished off last time. So we're gonna go ahead and start from this point because this is where we left off. And again, sincere apologies. There was an issue with the microphone. That's why I have to re-record this whole video and re-edit it and post it. So here we go. Okay, so let's pick up where we left off, which is we need to go ahead and create a reset component to the game so the game can be playable. Right now, if we start the game, we'll be able to play it, but once the timer gets down to 0, we won't be able to play it again, or another person can't come by and play it. The reason for that is we didn't create any scripting that would reset the game. So to do this, when the game is, we go to our game manager script, and you can see here when the game is started, we're starting the timer at 60 and we're setting the countdown, right? So the countdown then is going to go from 60 down to 0. Once the timer equals 0, it's going to send game over to self, right? Once game over is received, it's going to go ahead and do where we left off in setting the PPV and updating the leaderboards of how many games you played and what your score was, and set the score back to 0, and play a sound on FX. I think those are the things I added now. I can't remember. So we're just going to go ahead and delete those two things. Okay, so let's say this is where we left off right here. So now that the game over got sent because the timer got down to 0, this happens, and now what will happen is nothing, because the reason nothing will happen is if the next person tries to play, is if we look at the start button. I can't remember if we created the if or not, but let's just say we did or didn't. I think we actually did create the if, so let's put it back. So if game in progress equals false, okay, so if game in progress equals false, we'll send that. Else we're gonna say game in progress. I think we did have that, and I just deleted it because I couldn't remember what we had and what we didn't have. So let me just put it here. Let me just put it back. Game in progress. So basically, when player 1 comes and starts the game in progress is going to be false, right? So it's going to execute, send the game start to the game manager, and the game will start. The timer will start. And we're also going to set this to true. So that way, the second player in the middle of the game that the first player is playing, the second player is going to touch it, and they're going to get a game in progress because the game in progress is set to true. So they're going to get a pop-up that says the game is currently in progress, and it's not going to send a start game event, right? Let's say the game is over. The timer is down to 0. The player 1 is done with their game, but now player 2 wants to play. Well, they're still going to get this game in progress pop-up because we never set game in progress back to false. So that's where the reset comes in. So we need to create an event here in this start button script. And this event is going to be game over. So when game over is received, we want to set game in progress back to false. And that will go ahead and enable the next person that touches the trigger. Game in progress will equal false, and then it will go ahead and trigger that chain of events where the game start is sent to the game manager with the player, and now the next player will go ahead and start their game. So that's what we're going to do in the start button script. Is we're going to create the when game over is received, we're going to set game in progress to false. So now it is reset on this button. Cool. All right. With that being said, we need to go back to the game manager, and we need to send that event to the start button. So we're going to put it here. We're going to do a little delay actually. So let's do send my event with delay. So send event with delay in the events tab, and we're going to send game over. So send game over. We're not going to send it to self. We're going to send it to the start trigger. So go to your variables tab. We're going to grab start trigger, and we're going to send it after 3 seconds. Just 3 seconds. All right. So we're going to send game over to the start trigger after 3 seconds. Okay. Also, so now what we've done is the game is player 1 plays, they play their 60 seconds, the timer goes down to 0, and then player 2 will come, they will be able to start their game after 3 seconds, right? Because we're resetting the game in progress to false. One more thing we need to do on this side with game over, or one of the next things we need to do, is we need to set the score back to 0, right? Because here, as you can see, every time the ball went through a ring, it was getting an event to update the score. So the score is now could be 100. But now that the game is over, we don't want the score to start at 100 for the second player. We want the score to start at 0. So to do that, we're going to go to the values tab. We're going to grab a set 2, put it here under the game over section, and we're going to set score. We can just grab it from here, and we can grab this value from here and put it to 0. So we're going to set the score to 0. We don't have to display the score as 0 yet because I do want to see what the last player score was. But then what's going to happen is when the game is started, you can see up here when the second player starts the game, we're going to display the score as string on points. So it's going to display a score which we just updated to 0 after the first game, right? So 0 will go back on that score, and we'll show you that in a second. The other thing that we can do when the game is over, these are the two most vital things to make sure we can continuously play. We can play a sound if you like. We can do a game over sound. So we could grab here under the actions tab, scroll down to the sound area, and we'll put play sound on. We'll delete self. Go over here, and I created a variable called SFX, so we make it an object variable. I'm gonna call it game over, and I'm gonna put this object variable here. Now the game manager doesn't know what GO object is. It's an empty pill. So we need to open up the game manager properties of the object here. And you can see here we have a game over object that's empty, and it's set to play a sound. So whatever I put in here, whatever sound I put in there is going to play that sound. So we're going to go over to our builder menu. Let's go over to sounds, and let's go get game over. We can just type in game over to search. All right, those are clocks.
The game is tied.
Game over.
All right, we're gonna grab that one. There we go. And now we're gonna open the properties panel of the sound.
Game over.
It's not loud enough. I'm gonna put it to global.
Game over.
Turn the volume to like 77.
Game over.
That's better. Distance is fine. All right, so we're gonna grab this pill, and we're gonna put it there. So now when the game is over, we should hear game over, and we'll just leave that there. Okay. We're setting score back to 0. We're playing game over sound. And also, I just grabbed some music here that we can just put. Let's see. We're just going to grab the Arena Clash song. We're just going to put it to start on world. Turn it down a little bit. We won't have it to global. We'll just leave it there. So that's going to start on world start. So let's go ahead and do a quick test. So let's just restart the world. All right, so there goes the game music. You can hear it. So let's go ahead and press start game. All right, I have 59 seconds. And I can't grab the balls because I forgot that I put something on these before that I removed. All right, so I can grab this one. Okay. So there's 10, 20, 30, 40. So you see like how I can just put the ball through the ring? Well, that's not very fun. So we're going to do that next. We're going to add a script to this ball where only one person can hold it, and also it will return once it hits the ground. It will return back to its original spot after a second or so. And also we're going to put we're going to make the walls over here and put a trigger. So if you jump in, it's going to automatically respawn you back. So you can't just run and put the ball in the ring, right? So over here, I have 140 points with 3 seconds left. 2, 1. There's our game over sound effect. And now you can see the time is at 0. The score is 140. So now, if we did the script correctly, I should be able to start the button. The timer will go back to 60. The second game will start, and the score should display 0. Let's go ahead and see if this works. And there we go. So now this is a second game. So let's see how the timer started, and the score is displaying 0. And here's my ball over here. Go ahead and let's just get 1 point or 1 score, 10 points. Cool. All right. And this is updating. Cool. So that's how we just created the reset part of the game where we can now continuously play it over and over and over again after each game. So let's go ahead and mark that done. Okay. So now we're going to do only one player can play. What I mean by that is only one player can grab the ball at a time and the ball return. So basically we're going to create a ball return script with a script that only certain people can grab it. In this case, we only want one player to grab it. All right, let's stop the world. All right, so we're going to grab a brand new script. So go to your build menu, grab a new script. All right, there we go. We're going to call this one ball script. Call it whatever, but I'm going to call it ball script. Okay, and this is going to go on all 3. So what I'd like to do a lot of times is if I'm going to have multiple items that's going to be exactly configured the same and you run the same script, I just like to do it on one and then just duplicate it. That's a little thing that I do. You don't have to do it, but it can save you time. It's more efficient. All right, so what we're going to do first is I want to make it so only the player that is playing can grab the ball. To do this, we have to do 2 things. The first thing we need to do is go into the ball property, and we are going to go scroll to the right, and we're going to go to this more tab. And under this more tab, you will say who can grab is set to anyone. We don't want anyone to grab it, because what if I'm in the middle of the game and somebody comes by and grabs the ball away from the playing area, and now I can't play, or I can't play with all the 3 or 4 or 5 balls, however many I had put here, because other people are grabbing them. So we don't want that. That will disrupt the game, right? So to do this, we just switch who can grab this object to script assignees. So now only the script assignees can grab this ball. So even if I were to go ahead and start the world now, even though the game has not started, I can't grab it. Nobody can grab it. And that's what we want. We don't, but look, since it does have physics, we are able to move it. But that's just another story for another day. But right now I can't grab it out of here, so I can't take it away from the player. I can't hold it from the player that's playing, and so that's good. That's what we want. We only want one person to be able to grab the ball and throw it through. So anyone else that's watching here, they're going to be like this. They won't be able to grab it at all, and that's what we want. Okay, so that's the first thing we do. We go to the property panels of the object, and we go to the more, and we set who can grab to script assignees only. So now we got to set that up. Who are these script assignees? I'm going to pause the world so we can work in peace. So we're going to go back to our ball script that we haven't done yet. And we're going to say when world is started, we're going to go to our actions tab. And we're going to scroll down to where it says set who can grab object. Put that code block in there. All right, that's in this first object section. Set who can grab object. So who can grab self, which is correct because we're going to run this script on the ball itself. So set who can grab self to, and it's asking for assignees. So this is actually going to be a player list. So we're going to go to variables tab. We're going to create a new variable. The type is a player and it is a list. So see this list tag, make sure it's toggled on, this list option. We're going to call this, we're just going to call it active players. Even though in this case it's just going to be one, I'm going to put plural because it's a list. So it could be multiple people in other instances. But even though right now it's just one player, we're just going to call it active players. So we created our active players variable list. We're going to grab this and put it in here. Now what's going to happen is that when the world starts, it's going to run this thing. When world is started, set who can grab self to these people. But guess what? These people there's nobody in this list. So it means nobody will be able to grab this because nobody's in the list, which is what we want. That's fine. We want to say who can grab it when somebody starts the game. So that means we're going to need to get an event from the start button script, from this trigger, to send to the ball script to let us know, hey, this person can grab the ball because they're playing. So to do this, we're going to do when event is received. And we're going to call this event. We can call it game start. So let's do game start. When game start is received with player. So select a parameter called, we could just name it player. And it is not a list, it's just a single player, the person that pushed their hand on the trigger. So we're going to receive the event game start is received with player. When this happens, we're going to go to operators. When this happens, scroll down to the list section. We're going to do add to list. So we're going to add player to guess which list, this active players list. But that's not it. We're not done yet because we have set who can, at the beginning of the world, we set who is allowed to grab this object is this list of players. And now when the game started, I am adding this player to this list of players. So does that mean that they can grab it now? Not yet. We have to update who can grab self to the list of players. So I just got this and duplicated it over here. So we're going to add the player to the list of players, and then we're going to set again a new who can grab this object now is the list of players, which in this case, now there's one person in this list, which is this player, because we just added him. All right, cool. So now this player can grab the ball. When the game is over, we want them to not be able to grab the ball. So let's go back to events. Let's go back when event is received, and now we need a game over. We don't need to know who the player is because the player is here. So what we're actually going to do, we're going to go to new variable. We're going to create a singular player parameter. So we're going to call this active. The reason we need to do this is because when we get this parameter, I want to save it in this script. The only way to save who this player is in the script is to save that information in this variable that I named active, which is a player, an active player. So we're going to go to values. We're going to grab the set2, and we're going to put it right here. And now it's asking us to set or store information for what? For the variable active, which is a player variable. And I want to set this active player to the information that's received, which is this player that is touched the trigger. So let's say John touched the trigger. We're going to create a script that sends the event game start to the balls, and it's going to send it with John's name. Then we're going to set the active variable to John. So now active, this over here is going to be John. That's what we just did. So now when game is over, I don't want John to still be able to grab the balls after the game is over. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to operators, go back to the list, and we're going to put remove item from list. So guess who we're going to remove? We're going to remove John. In this case, we're going to remove John, which is stored as this active variable. We're going to remove him from the active players list. And then we're going to update who can grab the ball to active players, which is back down to 0 people are in this active players list, right? Because only one name was received, which was John, because he touched the start trigger. We saved John's information in active variable player pill. And then at the end of game over, we're going to receive an event from the game manager, which we haven't done yet. And we're going to remove active player, which in this case was John, from the active players list. And then we're setting who can grab the ball to the active players list, which John is no longer in and nobody's in. Then let's say Tiffany comes and she plays the next game. She touches a trigger. So now we send the event game start with Tiffany. We're going to set Tiffany to active. We're going to store Tiffany's name in active, and now she's the active player. So same thing, when her game is over, we're going to remove Tiffany from the active players, and then we're going to update who can grab the ball to the active players list, which again is 0 people. So only one person at a time will be able to grab this object. Even though we have a list of players, only one person is in there at a time, and we're removing them at the end of the game and updating who can grab the ball at the end of each game. So we'll be back to 0 people will be able to grab the ball. All right, we're not done because obviously we have this script is done. Not yet, almost, but we need to add when the ball hits the floor. We'll do that in a second, but let's go ahead and connect these game starts and game overs. So what I want to do first is actually let's open up the properties panel of the ball, and let's add the ball script. Okay, and now I would like to do is we're going to open up the start button, because the start button, when the game is started, we're going to send an event to the ball. We're going to send game start, and we're going to send it with the player parameter, but the target is not the game manager. The target is ball number 1, ball number 2, and ball number 3. So I created those variables here, ball number 1, ball number 2, and ball number 3. So you can just create it as an object variable type, and you can just type ball 1, ball 2, ball 3. It is not a list. It's just a single object like that. All right, so we have ball 1, ball 2, ball 3. So I'm going to send game start to ball 1. I'm going to actually just duplicate that and duplicate it again. And I'm going to replace ball 1 with ball 2 and ball 1 with ball 3, because we don't want it to go to ball 1 3 times, right? I just duplicated it. So now we have send game start to ball 1 with player, send game start to ball 2 with player, and send game start to ball 3 with player. That's exactly how it went. So now we just have to connect the dots. So we're going to open up the properties panel of the trigger. And you can see here we have ball 1, ball 2, ball 3. You can see we only have one ball. So let's just start with the first one. We're going to open up the properties panel of the sphere of the ball. We're going to grab the pill, plug it into 1. All right. We're going to go ahead and take this ball. We're going to duplicate it twice. So now we have 3 balls, and they all have the script on it already. So these are good to go. And now we just have to plug and play. So this will be ball number 2. And we're going to open up our properties panel of the third one. And this will be ball number 3. So there we go. So now we have the game start When a person touches this for the first time, we're going to send the game start event with the player information to each ball, and then the ball is going to update who can grab this to that player's name. To basically that it's going to add that player to the list of the people that can grab it, which would only be one person. If we add a second person and a third person, then there'll be those multiple people. But in this case, we're only adding one person at a time, only at the start of the game. Okay. So now watch. Let's go ahead and test that real quick. So if you see right now, the game is not started and I can't grab anything. If I press start trigger, now you see I can go ahead and grab the boss. And anyone else that was in the world will not be able to grab it. Only I can grab it because I hit the start trigger. So my information got sent to the ball. Okay. All right. So that part is successful. Now we got to do the end game part. Go back to the start button, because let's not forget the start button gets a game over event already. So what we can do is just copy this, and we're going to send game over to ball number 1, duplicate, and then replace and replace. So we're going to send game over to ball number 2, and we're going to send over to ball number 3. And because the ball can be in somebody's hand when the game is over, we want to force release the ball and have it go back to where it should belong, right? But basically, this is the important part. So we're not going to do anything in the game manager because the event game over is already being sent from the game manager to the trigger. And here we already have ball 1, ball 2, and ball 3 variables, and they're already connected. So again, just to be more efficient, we're just going to send the game over from here. It's not going to be sent for until 3 seconds. So what we will do is, in this ball script, we will say when game over is received, we're going to force release self, and then we're going to move to, and then original position, which we have not done yet, and we're going to do right now. Excuse me. Okay. So now we're going to create a new variable. So now we've pretty much done the part where only one player can grab. So we can mark that as done. And now we're doing the section of the ball return. That's the part we're doing now. So we're going to go ahead and create a vector type variable. We're going to name it OG. This will stand for original position. Okay. We're going to set OG at world start. So when the world is started, let's go to values and grab a set to. And then we're going to go back to our variables and we're going to set this OG vector variable. And we need to give it a value. So to do this, we're going to go to our operators. We're going to go to object. And we have position of object. Let's grab that. And we can grab this self that's here and duplicate it. All right, so it should read like this. Set OG vector to position of self, which is this ball, because we're on the ball script. So at the beginning of the world, we're going to set the information of OG to the position of self. So it is now set. So it will be this. So this position that is currently in when the world starts, that's exactly the position that is saved as OG, right? So now when the game is over and I force release on self, that's going to cause, if I'm grabbing a ball, it's going to force it release it from my hand. And then I want to move the ball to OG position, to the starting position. And that's what's going to happen. It's going to move it to the starting position right there. Excuse me. Okay. So that's good. All right. But now also what I want to do is if the ball hits the ground, I want it to come back to the starting position. So what we can do is we can have a game loop to check the height. So this one's a little bit, this is the one, let's take this one a little bit slow. So basically what we're going to do is we are going to, when the game is started, we're going to check every second, 1 second, the height of the ball. If the height of the ball is like 0.1, which is like here or something like that, if the ball is this height, we want it to come back to the original position, to the starting position. So that's what we're going to do. So to do this, we are first going to create a variable. Actually, no, we're not. We're first going to create a loop. So we want this loop. We'll create an event when event is received. And it's this ball loop. I have already created it before, but it's ball loop. So we're going to create the event called ball loop. And also we need to send this event. So we're going to send it once the game is started. So send ball loop to self when a game start is received. So under game start is received with player, we're going to send ball loop to self. Then when ball loop is received, we want to send an event with delay. And we're going to send ball loop to self after 1 second. So now we have a loop. This is called a loop because we're going to continuously send ball loop to self every single second. But we don't want to do that all the time. We just want to do it when the game starts. So to make sure we can check if a game is on or not, we're going to have an if. So we're going to put an if here. So if, and now when we created a variable that is a Boolean, we're going to say active. I already have something named active, so I can't name it that. We're going to say in session. Okay, so I created a Boolean variable. So it should be this color and it should be in session. And I'm just going to grab this and put it here. So this means if in session is true. When you put it in here without an equals or anything else, it's just checking if it is true. It's kind of like, I don't want to say shortcut, but that's what happens. You can also put, go to operators, grab the equal sign, because we're going to need to, well, we don't need to do that, but this is just another way of writing it out. So instead of writing it out like this, if in session equals true, you can just put the in session pill alone, and it's the same thing. So this means the same thing as this. It's basically going to check if in session is true. For now, I'll just leave it like that so you can guys understand it a little bit better. So if in session is true, I do want to loop it. So I'm going to put this in underneath the if and to the right. So it's like kind of cuddled in here. It's like nested under this if statement. If we leave it out here, it's going to continuously run no matter what, even if it's in session is true or not. We don't want that to happen. We only want it to run it if in session equals true. So that means we have to put that code block inside under the if. Got it? Okay. So, but the ball loop's not doing anything. The ball loop is just checking if in session is true and it's going in a loop. So we need to add stuff here, right? Before we do, we need to say in session is true and in session is false. So when the game is over, we want in session to be set to false. And when the game starts, we want in session to be set to true, right? That's what's going to determine if I want this loop to work or not work. So let's go to our values tab. Let's grab a set2. Let's put it here at the top. Let's go to variables, grab in session, and then go to values. Let's grab a Boolean input, and we're going to set it to true. So now when game start is received with player, set in session to true. Send ball loop to self. When ball loop is received, it's going to check if in session is true, which it is. It's going to execute whatever we put in here. And also we're going to send the ball loop again after a second, and it's going to check again. Is in session still true? If it is, we're going to keep executing what's in here. We're going to go ahead and copy this set in session to true, duplicate it, and then drag the duplicate copy to game over. And here set it to false. Must set it to false. So now when the game over is received from the trigger, we're going to set this to false. And now what's happening is in the middle of the game, this is going to be running every second. So it's going to run 60 times because it's a 60-second game. And then after the game is over, it's going to still run, but it's going to check, and then in session should be false. And then it will stop executing what's inside of this if, because this is no longer true. Because again, remember, if is a checkpoint and to do what's inside of the if. So since in session will no longer be true, it is actually false. This will not work, and this will not execute. And that's what we want. We do not want code to be executed when we don't want it to be, when it's unnecessary. Okay. Okay, so now that we have that, we are going to go ahead and we need to grab the height of the ball every second. So to do this, we're going to create a variable as a vector, because again, we need to get the position, and we're going to call it height. So we're going to name this height. So now we have a height variable, right? So we're going to do something similar. We'll just go up here and let's just duplicate this set OG to position of self. We're going to grab that, duplicate it, and then drag the duplicate copy down to here. Okay. And we don't want to set OG. So remove OG. We want to set height. So now set height to position of self. So it's going to grab wherever this ball is. If it's here in the air, if it's here, if it's here, if it's there, it's going to grab the position and it's going to set it to this vector variable that we named height. But to get a height, you see how we have the X, Y, and Z. The height is the Y. So we want just the Y to determine how high the ball is. It can be anywhere. It can be here, it can be there, but the height will be the Y. So we just want to know what the height is. So each position has X, Y, and Z, right? So inside of here is X, Y, and Z. As you can see here, this is X, this is Y, this is Z. The reason it's 0, 0, 0 is because it's a variable, so it's going to be stored. We're going to store information there. So here, every second, we're going to check the current position, X, Y, and Z, of the ball. Okay, that's what's happening. So that's what now height is the current position of the ball, position of self. Now I want just the Y. So we're going to create a variable number, name it Y. We're going to grab a set2 from the values tab. We're going to put it underneath this set height. And we're going to grab set Y, which is a single number. And I want to grab, let's go to operators, because I just want to grab the Y of this X, Y, Z variable. So to do this, we go to our operators. We're going to scroll down to vector math. And here, look, we have this option of Y of vector. So let's put that in there. So now I'm going to get the Y of this X, Y, Z of height, like that. So now I have set Y to the number variable to Y of height. So now I'm just going to get how high it is, and that's what we want. Okay, so now we got the position of where it's currently located every second. We got the Y, which is the height of the ball position. And now we want to do something. So let's do all of this is inside of this if too. We're staying inside of this if because we're only going to do this if the game is in session. So now we actually want to create another if inside of here. We're going to put it right underneath here like this, right underneath the Y. And we're going to say if, let's grab the less than symbol. So now we're going to have a condition. So if this Y, which is the height, is less than, and we're going to manually put a number here. So go to values, grab a number input. We're going to say 0.1. So if Y is less than 0.1, which basically 0.1, let's see here. Here we can go to attributes, and you can see here 0.2 is this high. So if we go here to the ground, it's 0.08. Because also the size of the object, you see how that changed to 0.95? The size of the object has something to say about it as well. So 0.8 would be when it's on the ground, so 0.1 is fine. All right. So if Y, which again is the height of the position of the ball, if it's less than 0.1, which technically that means it's on the ground, I want to do something. What do I want to do? I want to move self to OG. So we're actually going to go down here and duplicate under game over, duplicate this move self to OG, and then take the duplicate copy and put it inside of this if, like that. So now it's nested or coupled to this if. It corresponds to this if specifically. So now if y is less than 0.1, we're going to move self to OG. But the ball can be rolling, or it can be, you know, still like maybe you throw it really hard and it's rolling really fast. And then when it gets moved back to here, it might move around and might jump out. We don't want that either. So we need to add one more code block. Go to actions, and we're going to go to, actually go to motion, excuse me. And we're going to go to stop motion. Where is it? Physical motion. Okay, stop physical motion. It's under the physical motion tab of the motion tab. Stop physical motion. We're going to grab that and we're going to put that first. So first we're going to stop physical motion on self, and then we're going to move self to OG vector, which is the starting point. Okay, and then it's gonna send ball loop after 1 second. And it's gonna keep doing that. This does not go inside of here. Leave this over here. Oops. Leave this right there where it's supposed to be. So it should look exactly like this. Make sure it looks exactly like this, and I'm gonna break it down again. So when ball loop is received, when the game is started, game in session should be true because we set game in session to true when the game start event is received. So what's going to happen is it's going to set the height of this ball to height. It's going to check just the Y, which is the actual height. It's going to grab it and it's going to set Y to that. So it can be 10, it could be 20. So let's say it's 10. Let's say it's in the air and it's this high. Then Y is not less than 0.1. So it's not going to execute stop physical motion, and it's not going to execute return self to original position because it's in the air. So it's not going to execute. But then but it is going to execute this last part, send ball loop to self after 1 second. So after 1 second, it's going to send the loop again, and it's going to check again. Is the game still in session? Unless the game is over, it is in session. So it's going to say, yes, it is. So let's go ahead and grab the new height of the ball, wherever it is now, a second later. Let's grab the Y, which is the height, and let's check again. Is it on the ground? If it's on the ground, we're going to stop the physical motion, and then we're going to move back the ball back to self, back to the starting point, which will be here. And it's going to keep doing that once a second. It's going to keep checking once a second. And then it's going to stop checking when the game is over, because when the game is over, we're setting in session to false, which means this is not true, which means everything that's inside of here will not be executed. All of this will be ignored because this top line is not true. Okay, and then same thing here. These two lines of code will not be executed unless the ball is on the ground, unless the Y of the ball is less than 0.1. This will not be executed, these two lines of code. And that's how it works. So let's go ahead and give it a test. So let's go ahead and start the game. All right, so the ball flew onto the ground. Let's reset. All right, there we go, a lot better. Oh, so I can't grab the ball because the game hasn't started. So now the game has started, I can grab the ball. So let's go ahead and throw it on the ground. There it goes rolling, and look, came back. There we go. That's what we want. We don't want to go run after the balls. We want to be able to throw the balls through the rings and have them come back automatically towards us without us having to go chase them. There we go. Works perfect. Works like a charm. And then I'll just wait until the timer runs out, because when the timer runs out, I should not be able to grab the balls anymore after 3 seconds. Because remember, we put a little delay of 3 seconds. I can't remember why, but we did, and it's fine. All right, let's see how many more points I can grab. There we go. All right, so as you can see, the script is working great. The balls, it's being checked every second. So like right now, it's not gonna go anywhere because the ball is higher than 0.1. Once I drop it, and there's the game over. And now look, I can't grab the balls. Perfect. All right, so the ball return script is complete. 350 is my new high score. All right, so let's go ahead and mark ball return completed. And we are rolling. Okay, last two parts here. All right, so next is the anti-cheating stuff. So as you can see over here, just to save myself a little time, I'm gonna grab this stuff and duplicate it and bring it over here like that. It's a little off. I think I had it like that. Oh, it's all the way down. Okay, something like that. Okay, so now anti-cheating, because I don't want to be able to grab the ball and go here. And I don't know why it's giving me a game in progress, but I started a new game at the same time. So let's go check that out real quick. I probably did something that I forgot about. So let's check start button. When triggers entered by player, set game in progress to false. Set game in progress to false is here. So I don't know why I got to pop up. Maybe because I touched it twice. Okay. Okay. Anywho. Okay. So now I don't want to be able to grab the ball and go inside and just do this and just rack up the points. As you can see, that's cheating, and we don't want that, because then that can ruin the game for other people that are trying to play the game correctly. So what we're going to do, the first thing we're going to do is first we're going to create some walls. So as you can see here, I had made some walls, but then we need to make taller walls like I did over here. So I'm actually just going to copy this, and I'm going to set this down over here like that. And basically what I've done here, as I got a cube like this, I shaped it into the shape of a wall like this, and I did that on all sides, right? The way you make it invisible, if you don't know, you have to open the properties panel of the object and just turn visible to off. You want to leave everything, you want to leave collidable on, and now it's an invisible wall. So now if I try to go from the side, it won't let me go inside, right? And then same thing on this side, it won't let you go in. So now I have 3 invisible walls. 1, 2, 3. Here I have 4. Let me delete that one. All right, so they've got 3 invisible walls. So I can't throw the balls from here to be closer. I can't throw the balls from back here to be closer. I have walls above the rings, as high as the rings, all around the board except for the front. So I could only throw balls from the front. So that's our first step that we're doing here. The next step, as you can see here, I have a trigger. So what we're going to do is create a trigger so I can't jump in. So to do this, I'm going to grab a gizmo trigger and a script. And you need one of these spawn points. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to make this trigger go from about here like that, the size of this, up here, and then up to just about half. You don't need all the way, because in order for someone to jump from here, they're going to touch the trigger at some point. It's gonna be registered that they touched the trigger. We're going to create a script called just respawn. Okay, and it's a very simple script. We are just going to go here under events. When trigger is entered by player, go to motion, go to player motion, and we're going to respawn this player that entered the trigger to create a variable object called SP for spawn point. And then we're going to put that spawn point there. And now we're going to add that script to this trigger. So open up the property panel of this trigger, add respawn player. And now it's asking us, well, what is SP? SP is a spawn point, which will be this one. So open up the property panels of this spawn point and plug that, connect it. And there we go. So now if I jump into this trigger, I will be spawned back to here. So let's test that out real quick, because you actually don't need to start the game to have that happen. So there we go. I got a little bit close there. So maybe we want to maybe start this a little bit further back, just a little bit, like there. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because my hand doesn't go over. So that's good. So I can't like touch it and automatically be respawned. I have to like really jump over to be spawned back. Okay. And the world is stopping, in case you're wondering why I didn't respawn me. Okay. So that's all right. So I think that's it. We added the walls. We made it so only one player can grab the ball at a time. And we added the respawn script. So now pretty much eliminated 3 ways that people can cheat. And that helps to maintain the funness of the game, because obviously it's no fun if you have a bunch of people that are hold on. Obviously it's no fun if you have a bunch of people that are playing correctly, but then you have someone that found a way to cheat, or it's easy to cheat. So you want to make it harder for people to cheat. You want to make it harder for people to find ways around the system. There will always be a couple of people that find a way around the system, or find a different maybe weaknesses or flaws, but it shouldn't be where anyone can come in and figure out how to cheat. You have to make it, you have to put a little barrier to entry there, you know? So our anti-cheating is pretty much simple. So we just did 3 things. We made walls, so I can't throw the ball from here. And we put the trigger where I can't jump in. And we made it so 2 players cannot be throwing the balls, only 1 player can be throwing the ball. So we did 3 different things to help make sure people don't cheat easily. Okay. All right. And obviously you can always elaborate things, but this is again just your first scripting game. All right. So now the last part is the moving of the rings. The game manager is pretty much done because we added the reset. So we can say that's done. Game fidelity is pretty much done too. That's just making sure everything is up to par, up to code, as well as the anti-cheating mechanics and making sure that it's fair for everybody and whatnot. So the last thing we'll do here is the moving of the rings. So as you can see over here, we already have it in place. So we can have just different movements of the different rings, and some we have a little bit faster. As you can see, the green moves faster than the other ones. Also different directions. Again, this is your first scripting minigame, so we're not going to make it too complex. We're going to keep it simple. So what we will do is, first things first, you're going to need to group the ring with the trigger. So make sure it's one group. Okay, because I am pretty sure I didn't ungroup these, but I don't think we have grouped them yet. So they should be something like the trigger and the ring are together or next to each other like that, but they're not connected, they're not grouped. So to group it, you're just going to grab your trigger or grab your selector, touch it so now both of them are together, and then you're going to do this left thumbstick on your right hand like that, and now you hear that sound, and now it's grouped together. So as you can see, they're not 2 separate items, they're now 1 item together. Another way you can do that is let me ungroup this. Another way you can do that again is, see how the 2 of them are separate? You're going to select both of them, then put your selector inside and push up to get a properties panel window. And now you're going to click this option here that says press to group or ungroup objects. We're going to group it like that. And now look, now the 2 are stuck together, or they're grouped together, I should say. But in essence, we need to do that for every of the 3 rings. So go ahead and group each ring. I already have it grouped, so I'm not gonna redo that, but I just wanted to show you how to do it. But you need to do it, because otherwise what will happen is once we do the script, you have this ring move and the trigger is gonna stay there, and we don't want that. We want the trigger and the ring to move together. So to do that, we need to have it grouped so it moves together as 1 item. Okay. All right, once you have your 3 rings grouped, I started my rings over here to this right side of the board. And we're gonna go ahead and create a new script. So let's go to Gizmos, script, and we're gonna call this one rings move, or moving rings. And again, this is just to give it a little fun, a little challenge, so the rings are not just in the same place. Okay. So we're gonna say, first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna create a vector, again, that position. So a vector, we're gonna put OG. Okay, so there is our OG. And we're gonna set to, when the world is started, we're gonna set OG to position of self. So let's go ahead and grab in operators, position of object, go to values and grab the self. All right, so when the world is started, we're setting OG to position of self, which will be here. I would say let's start at the right to make it simple. And then what we're gonna do is each one of these rings will have this script running, right? So what we want to do is I want to move it to a specific location. There's a couple ways you can do this. To keep it simple, we're just going to make it an object. So we're going to go to the variable, select object, and we're going to call this position 2, like that. And then we're going to do a loop. So when the world is started, we're going to send the event to object. And we're going to send event position 2 to self. So you can name it position 2, POS2. Then we're going to grab when event is received. The event is POS2. So when the event is received, we want to go to the motion tab, and we're going to move to over time. So move to over time. The over time is important. All right. And we're going to set this to be a variable. So delete the time for a second. And we're going to create a variable called time or speed. Actually, let's name it speed. Let's name it speed. I'll show you why first in a second. So we're going to name it speed, and we're going to put that speed where this time is. Okay. So we're going to move self, which is the ring group. It's a ring group now with a trigger inside. So we're going to move self to, and it's asking us for a position, an X, a Y, and a Z. Well, we don't have an X and a Y and a Z, but we do have this position of, let's grab that, duplicate it into here. Move self to position of, not self, but position of position 2. This object over here, let's grab that and plug that in. So it should read like this: move self, which is the ring group, to the position of our object that we named position 2 over these many seconds, which is the speed variable, which right now is 0, which we don't want 0. We want to change that. But the reason why I had you create a variable so that each script can have a different speed. So you can see like my green one is faster, my yellow is the slowest, and the orange is kind of medium. That's because I put a different speed on each of them. Over here, you can see this one is 4 seconds. Okay. So now we're going to move self to position 2 over, let's just pretend 4 seconds. But we're not done yet, because I don't want to just for it to move to the object one time. I want it to go back to where it started. So to do this, we're going to send event with delay. We're going to send the event position 1. So you can type in position 1 or POS1. I already had to type in, that's why it shows up for me. We're going to send position 1 to self after also speed, because that way they're both equal. So whether I put this to be 5 seconds or 10 seconds or 3 seconds, it's going to move to the second position over 3 seconds. So it's going to move from here. It's going to go 1, 2, 3. And then at that same time, it's going to send position 1. And then position 1 is going to say go back to the original position over 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. So it's just going to keep going back and forth over 3 seconds. Right? So I need to send this event with the same amount of time that I'm moving this object to the second position. I don't want to move it earlier. I don't want to move it later. So that's why we're going to make sure it's the same exact number. So I put speed twice. One for when we're going to send the event to go back to position 1. And up here again, we're moving self to the second position over these many seconds. So now we're going to do when event is received. When position 1 is received, what do we want to do? We want to move self. So let's just duplicate this. And we don't want to move it to position 1. We can delete all of this position. We can just put OG. So move self to OG over X seconds. In this case, 4 seconds. We're just going to pretend it's 4. And then, but we don't want to finish that. We want to duplicate this, send event, and put it down here. And we want to change this to position 2. Like that. So it should look exactly like this. All right. So when the world is started, we're going to set the original position to the position of where the ring starts off in the world. Then it's going to send position 2. Position 2 is going to move this ring to the position of the object position 2 over 4 seconds. And then at the same time, after 4 seconds, we're sending the event position 1 to self. So then this is going to execute, which is moving self back to the original start position over 4 seconds. And then, so that's going to do this back to here. And then it's going to send position 2 to self at that same time, the 4 seconds. And it's going to keep going in this figure 8 style of events. So it's not really a loop. It's kind of like a figure 8 loop. So it's going position 2, then position 1, then back to position 2, then back to position 1. So it's just going back and forth throughout the whole world. So not even when the game is started, just in general. And I like it like that too, because as you can see over here, it kind of attracts somebody to come up to it and start playing. If you only had it moving when the game started, then they would just be standing there, but it's not as inviting, it's not as welcoming to, hey, come over here, there's something going on, there's some action going on, right? So that's why I left it like that, where the rings are moving even though their game is not on. And you can see these rings are moving a little bit different speed and different locations. All right, so now we're not done yet. We have the script done, but now let's go ahead and attach this moving ring screen, these moving rings script. Let's attach it to each one of these. So this is moving rings attached. Let's stop the world because it's trying to run the script when we don't have it completed. We need to tell it where is position 2. What is the object of position 2? But let's go ahead and let's go ahead and attach these scripts. So moving rings, and this last one down here, moving rings. Okay, before we go ahead and grab the objects that is going to represent our positions, it's asking us for a speed. So let's just put different numbers here. This will be 4 seconds. This will be, let's make it harder and make it 2.5 seconds for the orange. The green, it's already small, so let's leave this one at 3 seconds. So we have one at 2.5 seconds, one at 3 seconds, and one at 4 seconds. Let's move this one a little bit slower to 5 seconds, actually. All right, cool. Okay, so you have to put the speed. You have to put at least 1 or 0.5. You have to put a speed. If you leave it at 0, it's going to instantly teleport from one position to the other. We don't want that. We want it to gradually move to the second position. Okay, so now that the speed is set, we need to go to go to your build menu, and let's go to gizmos, and we're going to grab these snap destinations. All right. And we're going to go ahead and let's get it should be the size of each ring. Each one should be the size of the ring in terms of like the width, like that, because the ring is going to move to the center of this gizmo, right? So I want this ring to move to the center, and I want it to be, let's say, over here, up here. So it's going to move up a little bit. It's going to move to the center right here. And we can move this back just a little bit like that. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to open the property panels of this snap destination object. And we're going to grab it and plug it into the property panels position 2 here of this yellow big ring. So now we have it set to 5 seconds. It's going to move to the position of this object, which is a snap destination. And so it's going to go like from here. It's going to move to there over 5 seconds, to right here, right in the middle. Then it's going to go back to the original position. And it's going to keep doing that back and forth. Okay. All right. So we did one. Let's do the medium ring next, which is this one. So let's go ahead to our gizmos, grab another snap destination. Let's size it out to make sure it covers the whole length of this ring, and it does. So now this will be where it moves to. Let's move it down here. About there, because it's going to come straight to the center of this. So let's put it right there. Oops, I need to grab the pill and connect it to this empty position 2. Okay, so now position 2 is this object. So it's going to move here to position 2 over 2.5 seconds, and then back over here over 2.5 seconds. Okay, so that one's done. Last but not least, we have our green. So let's grab another snap destination. And this one's a little big, so let's make it a little bit smaller so I know exactly where it's going to fit. And I want this one to go like here, center. Center, but down. So it's going to go from here to here and then back. And you can put these anywhere. I mean, you might have to adjust them a little bit, but make sure they're their size of the width so you know exactly how they would fit in your game. You don't want it to be out here or anything like that. And I have to connect it. So let's open up the properties panel and let's make the connection of this object to position 2. And we should be good to go. Let's take a look. Let's start the world. There they are. There's our 3 rings moving, different speeds. And there you go. And now we have a game. So we can go ahead and start the game. And now it's a little bit of a challenge now. You're not gonna get 200 points. Oh, there we go. And it's cool because sometimes you can get they might line up the rings where you can get it through 2 rings. Like, oh, I think I almost did there. Almost did there. But yeah, you can sometimes line it up perfectly to get it in between 2 rings at the same time, and it does count as double points, which is pretty fun. But yeah, so there you go. So there's your first mini game. Congratulations, everybody. Congratulations on let me go over here, hold on. Alright, congratulations on scripting your first mini game. I'm proud of you. You guys did it. I have a lot more tutorials to come. I'll make some shorter ones, some beginner ones, and we'll do some other stuff. Let me know in the comments what else you guys want. I appreciate you guys. Hope you guys have a great day.